May these stories that I have written wrap around you like a well-loved quilt. May they remind you that God is near, hope is steady, and joy often comes softly, like a whisper on a southern breeze. Welcome in, friends. I'm so glad to have you with me again today. So let's get into the introduction of this week's story. Up in the quiet folds of the mountains, where the mist hangs low in the mornings and the evenings settle soft as a hymn, folks learn to mind their own business, not out of coldness, but out of respect. And for the longest time, nobody in town knew much about the young couple who lived way back in the holler past Briar Ridge. Just a whisper of a cabin, a curl of smoke, and the occasional sighting of a man carrying firewood with a baby tucked against his chest. Some said they were shy. Others said they were hiding from something. But the truth, as it often does, waited patiently for the right moment to step forward. This story is called The Cabin at Briar Ridge. The young couple, Eli and Maren, had come to the mountains seeking quiet. Life had been loud and unkind in the town they left behind, and when their baby girl Willa was born, they decided she deserved a gentler world. So they built themselves a small cabin deep in the woods, living off the land, keeping to themselves, and trusting the mountains to hold them steady. There were moments, late at night, when Willa's tiny hand curled around Maren's finger, when Maren wondered if they'd done right by choosing solitude. Eli felt it too sometimes, especially when storms rolled in and the cabin shook under the weight of thunder. But neither of them spoke it aloud. They were determined to build a life untouched by the harshness they left behind. One crisp morning, while Eli was splitting wood behind the cabin, he heard the crunch of footsteps. Not the soft shuffle of a deer or the curious hop of a fox. These were heavy, deliberate steps. He turned to see a man in an orange hunting vest, rifle slung over his shoulder, and a look of surprise on his face. "Well, I'll be," the hunter said, lowering his rifle. "Didn't know anybody lived this far back." Eli nodded, cautious but polite. "We do, just keeping to ourselves." The hunter introduced himself as Hank Lawson, a lifelong resident of Gobbler's Knob, known for his easy laugh and the way he always carried extra jerky in his pockets. Hank didn't push or pry. He just talked like a man who enjoyed company, even if it was only for a few minutes. Before he left, he handed Eli a small wrap bundle. "Venison sausage," Hank said. "Made it myself. Figured y'all could use it." Eli didn't know what to say. Kindness wasn't something he'd been used to accepting. But he took it, and Hank walked off with a wave. Over the next few weeks, Hank stopped by whenever he hunted near Briar Ridge. Sometimes he brought food. Sometimes he brought stories. Sometimes he just sat on the porch with Eli while Willa slept inside, the two men talking about weather, wood stoves, and the way babies change everything. Maren warmed to Hank quickly. She said he had a gentle way about him, and Eli agreed. It wasn't long before Hank invited them to come into town for the church potluck at the community center. Eli hesitated. "We ain't been around folks in a long time." Hank smiled. "Well, that's all right. Folks are still folks, and they'd be mighty glad to meet you." On the night of the potluck, Eli and Marilyn bundled Willa in a quilt and made the long walk into the mountain. When they stepped inside the community center, the room fell quiet, not out of judgment, but out of curiosity. Then Miss Hazel, who ran the church kitchen, walked right up to Marin, peeked at baby Willow, and said, "Well, look at this little mountain angel. Y'all come sit by me." And just like that, the ice melted. People brought them plates of food, asked about their cabin, offered to help if they ever needed it. Eli felt something he hadn't felt in years, a sense of belonging. Marin's eyes shone with relief. Willow giggled every time someone waved at her. By the end of the night, Eli realized something important. They hadn't been hiding from the world. They'd just been waiting for the right part of it. From that day on, the young family became woven into the fabric of Gobbler's Knob. Hank visited often, bringing firewood or stories. The townsfolk checked on them during storms, and Eli and Maren, once tucked away into the quiet shadows of the mountains, found themselves surrounded by a community that treated them just like kin. Sometimes the mountains keep people apart, but sometimes they bring them together in ways only God could have planned. The reflection of this story reminds us that even the most private hearts often long for connection. Eli and Maren weren't running from people. They were waiting for the right ones. And when kindness found them, it didn't knock loudly. It came gently, like Hank Lawson with his venison sausage and easy smile. Community isn't about crowds or noise. It's about the people who show up with open hands and open hearts. It's about the courage to step out of solitude and the grace of being welcomed in. And it's about remembering that sometimes the very thing we fear, being seen, is the thing that saves us. I hope you enjoyed that story this week. Come back next week for another one. May these stories that I have written wrap around you like a well-loved quilt. May they remind you that God is near, hope is steady, and joy often comes softly, like a whisper on a southern breeze.